This week on HBO's Inside the NFL. The Jets narrowly drop out of sole possession of first place in the AFC East. Joining us to talk about the Vikings' best start in 21 seasons is head coach Dennis Green. We profile Shar Pourdanesh, a man whose compelling journey has taken him from Iran to starting tackle on the Redskins. And we look back at former coach Buddy Ryan, the mastermind of the Bears' 46 defense. And now, the show the pros watch, Inside the NFL, with your hosts, Len Dawson, Nick Bonicatti, Chris Collinsworth, and Jerry Glanville.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's show. We're 10 games into the season, and unfortunately for the Indianapolis Colts, they have the distinction of being the first team mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. Let's talk about the playoffs and the position of the quarterback and how important that is, because without a good quarterback, chances are you are not going to make the playoffs. Looking at the standings right now, who's playing well? Oh, I would say Steve Young, John Elway, and Brett Favre, to name a few.
You know, it's amazing how an 0-10 start will hurt your chances for the playoffs. Yeah, but when you're trying to figure out which of these teams are going to ultimately be in the playoffs, I think you follow the quarterback. And that means in the AFC East, Dan Marino and the Miami Dolphins. In the NFC East, Troy Aikman and the Dallas Cowboys, even though they're not there right now. And ultimately now with Warren Moon, I've got to believe the Seattle Seahawks will pass Kansas City now that Elvis has left the building.
But you know something? If you know that you need a good quarterback, and I know that you need a good quarterback, and so don't you, Lenny.
I know this all along.
I mean, how come the Philadelphia Eagles don't know that? They go into the season with Detmer and Pete. Neither one could play last year. Why would they play this year? Now they go into this game with a guy named Bobby Hoying out of Ohio State. What it tells me is 3 bad quarterbacks doesn't equal 1 good one.
Well, Al Davis learned you can get 1 good one, and it still doesn't guarantee you're going to win any football games. But the owners know in the National Football League that they got a problem with depth at quarterback. That's why the World Football League, Brad Johnson and 15 other quarterbacks from the World League are on the rosters in the National League.
Let's talk about depth at quarterback and how important it is. Your old buddy Boomer Esiason bailed out Cincinnati last week. And how about Seattle? I think they should thank the Minnesota Vikings and Brad Johnson, because as well as Brad Johnson played, that meant that Warren Moon could be out of there, and that's exactly what happened. I don't think Seattle would be making the playoffs without him.
Yeah, but you're talking about vintage quarterbacks. You're not just talking about any quarterbacks, Lenny. I look at the Buffalo Bills. Last year, they forced Jim Kelly to retirement. Remember, Chris, they bought out his contract. So this year here, they're 1 game behind the Jets, Dolphins, and Patriots in their division. How would Jim Kelly look playing quarterback this week for them?
And don't forget that the downfall of the New York Giants football team all started when they forced Phil Simms out the door. Remember, Dave Brown was going to be the star, and we know how that worked out.
So what you do, you never get rid of old quarterbacks.
That's why we're keeping you right here.
We mentioned Boomer Esiason. Let's start our highlights in Indianapolis, where Boomer led his team to victory. You'll also get to listen to a very animated and entertaining Bengals coach, Bruce Coslett.
Hey, go get a ball, baby. Go blow somebody up and get after the rest. Now, let's go.
Last Sunday, the Bengals kept blowing themselves up early on, and Coach Coslett knew exactly why.
Hey, Tony, the balls are slick. The balls are slick. Tony, there's something on these.
Write them all down, Coach.
Those aren't tacky like normal.
Less tackiness led to more wackiness.
Fires it out in the flat, caught by Marco Battaglia. He lost the football. The Colts have scooped it up. Running it is Steve Morrison. The Colts get it right back. A turnover.
It wasn't Marco Battaglia's fumble, but an ensuing fight that drew Coslett's ire.
Get out of here. Go sit down. What else do you need to do today? Huh? Can't make a play now, you want to fight? Now, come on. on. Get your poise back. You understand? Hey, you guys just got to keep going. When things go like this, you know, they stuff it, bam, there we go. Yep. You just got to stay with the program. Exactly. Just stay with it.
When injured Jeff Blake left the program, ageless Boomer Esiason stepped in.
Listen to all the Bengal fans in the house here. How about Boomer? How about the blonde bombshell?
In the third quarter, the blonde bombshell blasted a path for Corey Dillon with a dynamite block.
Looking for a block from Boomer, and he gets it at the 45, down the sideline at the 40. He's at the 30. He might go all the way. He will go all the way. Touchdown, Cincinnati.
He blocked Boomer Esiason.
Boomer got the touchdown block. You all right? We're 2-7. Let's go for the gusto.
Boomer to throw on second and goal over the middle. It's touchdown, Tony McGee.
Coslin also got reacquainted with his long-lost defense.
Hi, I'm Bruce Coslin. Nice to have you back. Nice to see you. You ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You better be. Hey, keep bringing it, guys. Keep bringing it. He's barely getting those off. Out. Hey, Copeland! Copeland! It's sack time! It's sack time! Go get one! Do it again! Yeah! Defense, outstanding job. They still haven't gotten the end zone on you. I mean, they did not score on that touchdown pass, believe me. All right, Copeland, excellent at the end. He didn't think he'd go one more, but I talked to him about those gassers. All right, you stuck with the plan. They won some, we won some. Got a running game going a little bit. You know, now I got a damn quarterback controversy. Way to go, Boomer. Good job. Good job. Good. He's tired. He can only play a half. Come in for treatment. I'll see you Wednesday.
In Pittsburgh, Coach Bill Cowher has reason to smile, thanks to the Steelers' share of first place in the AFC Central. Last week, the men of Steel turned 6 first-half Baltimore turnovers into 20 points on the way to their first shutout in 4 years. Cordell Stewart paced Pittsburgh by running for 1 touchdown and tossing another to Yancey Thigpen in the 37-0 rout.
Cordell Stewart to Yancey Thigpen. The Steelers crack it wide open. Oh, yes, beautifully thrown ball by the slash Stewart.
With the win, Pittsburgh improved to 7-3 and kept pace with Jacksonville for the lead in the AFC Central. Over in the NFC Central, the Packers had their hands full in a bruising battle with the St. Louis Rams. Green Bay led 3-0 at halftime before the offense awakened.
He goes straight back in the pocket, got a little time, going to the corner, there he is, touchdown to Antonio Freeman. Brett back to throw, rolling, now looking, and now he's going to run with the ball. Is he going to run it in? Touchdown, Brett Favre.
The Packer offense overcame a sluggish first half and mounted 2 long second-half scoring drives on the way to their 5th consecutive win and 21st in a row at Lambeau Field. The loss was the 6th straight for Dick Vermeil's young Rams, while the defending Super Bowl champion Packers at 8-2 find themselves in a tie for the black and blue division lead with Minnesota, who last Sunday went big game hunting. The Vikings' prey was Chicago quarterback Eric Kramer. While the big guys were piling on Kramer, it was 5'7" David Palmer's 2 touchdowns that sparked Minnesota to a 21-10 halftime lead. The resilient Bears proved difficult to trap, however, and responded with 12 unanswered second-half points. And with just over 3 minutes remaining, Chicago held a 22-21 lead. But for the second time this season, Brad Johnson and the Vikings stunned the Bears with a last-minute game-winning touchdown drive.
Johnson hands off to Leroy Hard. Touchdown, Vikings! Right down the middle for the go-ahead.
The win was Minnesota's 6th straight, and at 8-2, the Vikings are off to their best start since 1976.
One other note, the Vikings have made the playoffs in 4 of the 5 years Dennis Green has been in Minnesota, but this just might be his best team yet. And Dennis joins us now on NFL Crosstalk. Coach, congratulations. You know, the Vikings have become the new cardiac kids with all those fourth quarter comebacks. How's your heart these days?
Well, it feels great. You know, this was a fourth one against Chicago, and, you know, we're the type of team that's going to have to fight for 60 minutes. But what's paid off for us is that we've been a really good 2-minute offense, 2-minute defense, and 2-minute special teams type of team all year.
Coach, after having Brad Johnson on the bench for 4.5 years, when did you know that he was good enough to get the job done?
Well, we felt really good about him when we sent him over to Europe to make his bones, so to speak. And he really came back a seasoned player. He'd never really been a long-time starter. And then the key was when Warren Moon unfortunately got hurt last year in the first game of the season, Brad stepped in, led a scoring drive to win the ball game, started the next week against Atlanta, threw 2 touchdown passes, and we knew right then that he was going to be our guy, whether it would be in the 1996 season or for the future 97 or 98.
Coach, what were you trying to accomplish when you wrote the book?
I think there's only one reason to write a book. I think that's when you have something to say. I think it's been a really hard battle for me the last 6 years here at the Minnesota Vikings. I've been in a lot of different battles with a lot of different people, but I think an autobiography is more than that. An autobiography takes me up to when I got here, and I think that's really what No Room for Crybabies does. But when you write a book, you have something to say, and I felt very strongly about what I said. Anybody who's read the book from front to back is not surprised that I wrote the book or about anything that's in the book, because I think it's a really strong depiction of who I am, what I represent, and where I'm from, and maybe where I'm going in the future.
Dennis, let me ask you about just a couple of things from this book. And I know that this part of the book, the last chapter, was sort of a what-if situation. But in there you said, I am buying this team or suing the owners. Right. And I'm holding all the owners responsible for the actions of the 2 that supported the move to Lou Holtz a year ago. Now, these guys still are your bosses. I mean, didn't you know that that was going to create some problems for yourself?
Well, first off, I have only one boss. I report directly to Roger Hedrick. He is the president. The rest of the other 9 directors, board of directors, are owners also, but I don't really report to them. I report to Roger, and it's Roger's job, really, I guess, to report to them and to be my direct supervisor. Number 2, that was a concept. I'm not allowed to speak on that issue out of New York, but let's just say this. I like the book. I really do. I think that anybody who reads the book from start to finish will clearly understand where I'm coming from. And the other thing, too, you can't be driven by fear. I don't think that we could be the team that we've been in the National Football League with the obstacles that we've had to overcome if we've been dealing with fear, if we've been afraid.
Dennis, the Vikings are 8-2 right now, and yet when teams are talking about the NFC teams that may go to the Super Bowl, in general, it's still Dallas, San Francisco, Green Bay. Do you guys take that personally?
We don't mind the fact that we're the underdog. In fact, we're probably underdogs this week against Detroit. That suits us just fine because we have short-term goals and long-term goals. Our short-term goal is the Detroit Lions. Our long-term goals are to be Super Bowl champions. And we don't mind the discussions involving everyone else because the bottom line is it will be decided on the football field between the stripes on Sundays.
Dennis, thank you for your time and good luck this week.
Take care, guys.
Lenny, sounds like we might have another Bill Parcells situation on our hands.
Chris, you could be right. I watched that, Nick, and I thought, hey, Dennis Green, I don't think cares whether he's there coaching or whether he's gone.
You know, Lenny, there's so much bad blood between Roger Hedrick and Dennis Green and the board of directors of the Minnesota Vikings that I think at the end of the season, this is what's going to happen. They're going to go into a room. They're going to offer Dennis a pile of money to get him out of the last year of his contract. That's going to say, thank you very much. It's been great up here, and I'm going on to another coaching job.
Well, I know where he's going this Sunday. He and the Vikings are going to Detroit to take on the Lions, an important game for Minnesota because they are tied with Green Bay in that NFC Central Division. The Packers look like they have an easy go this week taking on the winless Colts. So if Minnesota wants to keep pace, they must defeat Detroit. What are they going to do?
Well, I mean, you can't give it the ball to Barry Sanders 50 times in a ball game. And Bobby Ross has said, I don't like what's happening at the position. The position is the quarterback position. Scott Mitchell has not played well. He has a hamstring pull. Frank Reich is the backup quarterback. The last time I saw Frank Reich have a big game, he was wearing a Buffalo Bills uniform. He had a great comeback against the Houston Oilers in a playoff game.
Yeah, but you're talking about that was after the 1992 season. I'll tell you who does have a quarterback, the Minnesota Vikings. Brad Johnson is having a fantastic year. As a matter of fact, they're calling him the John Elway of the NFC for his ability to bring his team back in the fourth quarter. And they protect this young man. 19 sacks. Compare that to the league high, which is 46. They will protect him, and Minnesota will win. Chris, what do you guys think?
Well, Lenny, anybody that plays against Barry Sanders, you have to worry about that team's run defense. And the Minnesota Vikings, the first 4 games of the season, couldn't stop anybody from running the football, much less Barry Sanders. But since then, they've been averaging 50 fewer yards per game allowed on the ground, 10 fewer points per game, and this defense has really turned it around. I think a big reason Ed McDaniel, their fine linebacker, seems to be recovering from when he blew out his knee a season ago. I like the Vikings here.
Well, I like the Vikings too, and I like him because of the linebacker, but not your guy. I like Dixon Edwards. He's the guy that dogs and blitzes versus the run, and probably their heaviest hitter, and I think he'll stop Barry Sanders.
So you like the Vikings?
I like the Vikings.
Did you ever try to buy a team that you were coaching? I just wondered. I don't know.
No, but I am trying to buy the show. In fact, if HBO will not sell me this show, I'm going to sue HBO and then fire you.
You're too cheap to buy dinner, much less the show. Well, the Vikings, they're getting a lot of attention in the NFC, and while in the AFC, there was a matchup last week between 2 of the hottest teams there, the Chiefs and the Jaguars.
Gotta feed the elephant the peanuts, boys. Gotta mow the lawn.
Hey! Who went down this week? Oh, Kansas City.
All right, guys, we gotta play our style. Let's go. One play at a time. Let's hit him in the damn mouth. Let's go, Chiefs.
Jacksonville's offense took complete control from the start. Early in the second quarter, quarterback Mark Brunell hit Jimmy Smith, who raced 75 yards for the longest play in Jaguars history, but failed to score.
He's at the 40, Jimmy's at the 30, racing to the 20, to the 10 in the corner of the end zone. He's tripped out, and he's down at the 1.
This dude inside NFL, bro. Turn around and tell them what happened. Tell them I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
James Stewart went airborne to finish it off.
Running right, leaps into the end zone, touchdown, Jacksonville.
Jacksonville set a team record with 6 sacks and recovered 3 Chiefs fumbles.
Let's get going.
Kansas City simply couldn't stop the Jaguars' ground game. Jacksonville rushed for 150 yards, and Natron Means' touchdown run helped give them a 24-3 lead by halftime.
Back up across the 10. He's on his feet across the butt. Touchdown, Jacksonville.
Just keep working. Hey, I'm telling you, it'll be all right. Just keep working and keep running hard, man.
Quarterback Rich Gannon and Andre Rison did help the Chiefs move the ball as Kansas City outgained Jacksonville by almost 100 yards. But the only touchdown they could manage was a fourth-quarter effort that probably didn't occur the way they drew it up on the blackboard.
Under pressure, throwing right, has a receiver, it's batted in midair, picked off. Hudson. Hudson's got it at the 10. Hudson at the 15. Here he comes near side at the 15 and loses the ball and is picked up by the Chiefs. Touchdown.
It was the Chiefs' third loss, all of them on the road, while Jacksonville won their 11th straight at home.
That's a hell of a win, though. That's a hell of a win. That's a very good football team we just beat. Got to keep on playing offense. Defense did an outstanding job. Special teams, good job.
With two young quarterbacks, you knew it wouldn't be a pretty offensive picture for the Giants and Oilers. Both teams slogged it out between the 20s, and the game's only touchdown resulted from a block by number 77, Kevin Donnelly, who opened up the perimeter for Eddie George. The Giants' Danny Cannell missed the few opportunities he had for six-pointers. Cannell threw for just over 100 yards and was sacked 3 times as the Oilers kissed off the Giants for the first time in their history. The Cowboy defense kicked the Cardinals all over Texas Stadium and registered 9 sacks, their most in 11 years. Jake the Snake Plummer quivered and quaked and collapsed under the relentless pressure. While the skids were greased for the Cardinals, the Cowboy offense finally found firm footing, especially Anthony Miller, who had been a free agent disappointment this season. While Miller does not fly on the wings of Mercury anymore, he did open up the end zone for the Mercurial Cowboy offense.
Deep drop, throws the fade for Herschel Walker, catches the ball, touchdown Dallas.
In the red zone, the punchless Cowboys scored 3 times. Another rare but welcome sight was an Emmitt Smith touchdown, as the Cowboys routed the Cardinals and evened their record at 5-5.
You cannot drop your guard against Barry Sanders in the cutback, or he will burn you.
Only once did the Redskins not heed these wise words.
Cuts back over the middle of midfield. Right side 45. Barry in the open 35-30. Off to the races 20. To the 15. To the 10. To the 5. Touchdown, Lions!
Barry Sanders' one brilliant moment was easily overcome by the man of the moment, Terry Allen, whose punishing runs wore down the undersized Lion defense. The Redskins' victory streak over the Lions reached 18 games. They have never lost at home, and it has been 29 years since Detroit has defeated them.
Back he goes to pass. Set. Hit just as he delivers the ball. Picked off by Bounds at the 21. He's going in. Touchdown, Washington Redskins.
The easy victory sets up a crucial matchup with the Cowboys this week at Texas Stadium. Coming up on HBO's Inside the NFL. The Jets didn't have a smooth landing in South Florida. And a look back at a former workhorse coach, Buddy Ryan, who's now working with thoroughbreds.
While football is a uniquely American sport, its appeal has gone worldwide. Currently, there are 46 foreign-born players in the NFL, but none of them has taken a path like the budding star on the Redskins' offensive line, Shar Pourdanesh. Here's Nicole Watson with our cover story.
For most NFL players, life in a secure suburban setting is something that they naturally dream of growing up in the United States. For Shar Pourdanesh, who grew up in Iran, well, it's something he couldn't even imagine until his parents had the vision to seek a better life for their children here in America. 2 decades ago, Iran was a volatile country of political unrest. In 1979, seeing their homeland being torn apart, Shar's mother and father put his 2 older sisters in a Catholic boarding school in Ohio, where they were safe before the Shah of Iran was overtaken by the Ayatollah Khomeini.
It was a political situation where a lot of people didn't know what's going on, and they just knew that there was turmoil.
We didn't know what's going to happen in Iran. We didn't know Russia is going to come take over, or we didn't have that much information.
On November 4th, 1979, 66 Americans were taken hostage in Iran. The Pordanish family fled Iran the following September. Unable to obtain visas to enter the U.S., Shar and his parents lived in Europe for 3 years.
We entered the American consul in Paris, and he asked us, he goes, it's really interesting for people that take our hostages, now you want to come to our country. And you know, they wouldn't even allow us in.
Finally, in 1983, Shar's parents obtained visas, which allowed their son to reunite with his sisters in the U.S.
When they saw me, I was 10 years old, and then the next time they saw me, I had just passed my 13th birthday, and you know, and I had seen them when they were young teenagers, and then when I saw them, they were, you know, they were ladies now.
The Pordanish family settled in Irvine, California. Shar spoke no English.
For me to come to the U.S. and see my morning cartoons and shows all through the day, that just fascinated me, and I was glued onto the TV. And there was a big joke in Washington that, you know, I said I learned my English from Gilligan's Island, which is true. You know, that was my favorite show, so I watched it day and night. And you know, so Gilligan was my tutor in English.
While Shar looks back on that time now and laughs, the reality of the adjustment period was a lot more difficult for the teenage student. The ignorance of his classmates just made him a stranger from a foreign land.
In 1983, when every day on my way back from home from school, it was just being chased down by people and having to, you know, it was every day was somebody else saying, okay, I'm going to take out the Iranian today, and just fighting it out every single day.
He never told me what kind of problem he has in school or any place that he goes, never.
I don't think it was ever a cry of, boy, I'm getting beat up, or boy, I'm getting in fights. It was just frustration.
Then later, I was so upset. And sometimes, even when I was thinking about it, I was crying by myself. Why those things happened to my son, you know?
For Shar, the fighting stopped when he began playing football in high school. He became accepted by his peers as an equal, not an outsider. He went on to star at the University of Nevada and then in the Canadian Football League. Now in his second season with the Washington Redskins, he is a starter at offensive tackle, and he is the first player in the NFL from Iran.
I came from a situation of turmoil, of chaos. You know, there was a war that went on between Iran and Iraq for 8 years, and I lost a cousin in that war, you know, who was only a year older than I was. And what's the difference between me and him? What's the difference between me and a kid that got shot in the street during the revolution?
Shar Pordanish has a right to be thankful. He is very close with his parents and sisters, who still live in California. He married an American woman last year, and 3 weeks ago, his wife gave birth to their first child, a boy, Cameron. In Shar's native land, Cameron means very successful, and all your wishes come true.
I love you so much, yes I do.
Now that is an incredible story, but Nick, not unlike that of your ex-teammate, Garo Yepremian.
Now, Garo was living in Cyprus and a war broke out there. Then he came to the United States, and really like Pordanish, he got his breakthrough football.
Pordanish and his Washington teammates traveling to Cowboy country in Dallas, taking on a team that they defeated earlier in the year. As a matter of fact, the last 5 meetings between these two teams, Skins won 4. But Nick, at home this year, the Cowboys are 4-0.
Yeah, and I think the Redskins beat the Cowboys last time because of the cornerbacks, Darrell Green and Chris Dishman, going this week up against a great one in Michael Irvin, so Anthony Miller. But the struggling running game of the Cowboys, I think, really gives the edge to Washington.
And you know, this Redskins offense is completely different when Terry Allen is in there. 6-1 when he starts the football game, 0-3 when he does not. And the biggest reason is they don't turn it over. They get the ball out of Gus Frerott's hands and take care of it with the running game.
But Terry Allen's good play is directly related to the improvement of the fullback position for the Redskins. Larry Bowie has improved not only as a blocker, as a runner, and as a receiver.
I like the Dallas Cowboys, and I'll tell you why. They have really made improvement in that red zone. They had a lot of problems early on in the year, but last week, 3 touchdowns in the red zone, including 2 running with the football.
Was that against the Arizona Cardinals?
It was against, they all count as one, Nick. They all count as one.
You know, this week here, Kennard Lang gets back into the Washington Redskins defensive line. This is a team that's only given up 15 points a game, second best in the NFL. I like the Redskins in an upset.
Oh, yeah. The Redskins defensive line is much healthier. They're doing a better job against the run. But the Dallas Cowboys, the first time time these two teams got together proved to me that they can run the football in this Redskins team. They just didn't stick with it long enough. They will here. I like Dallas.
Well, I also like Dallas, and they'll run the football because when they lost Moose Johnson as the fullback, they've now gone to a new formation with 2 tight ends in there all the time. David LaFleur, the rookie tight end, he'll be going in motion, square up, balance up that 4-3, and they'll run the football and win the game.
Well, he's so big he'll unbalance that whole line. He's about 270 or 80 pounds. Now, while the Redskins and Cowboys battle in the NFC East, there's a terrific race going on in the AFC East. Last week, the Dolphins and Jets continued their long-standing rivalry.
New York gets to celebrate now. They're in first place for a whole week. But always remember, just remember one thing, baby. New York, this is Miami. We don't give up. We got the #1 coach, #1 quarterback. We're #1, baby. Dolphins #1, baby.
The fans in Miami were feeling Dan Marino's pain after the NFL's all-time leading passer sprained an ankle in a Week 10 loss at Buffalo. But in the first quarter against the Jets, Marino used his running back as a crutch.
Marino hands it off to Kareem. He's going to the right side, heading for the pylon. He's in! Touchdown, Dolphin. Yes, sirree!
Marino's counterpart was green, both in uniform color and experience. It was quarterback Glenn Foley's first start this year. But with less than 2 minutes left in the half, his touchdown throw to Kyle Brady gave the Jets a 10-7 lead.
Foley under some pressure, throws. He's got Brady wide open, makes the catch of the 5, into the end zone. Touchdown, Jets.
As the seconds ticked down toward halftime, the Dolphins were in a hurry-up mode. But Marino kept his composure, and Miami took back the lead.
Good time, steps up, fires into the end zone. Perriman's there, he's got it. It's a touchdown. Yes, sir! Brett Perriman on the receiving end of a beauty of a pass from Dan Marino.
Miami led 24-10 in the fourth quarter when Adrian Morrell's touchdown run cut the deficit to 7.
Adrian Morrell, a 43-yard touchdown run. Bang, it's a game again.
On their next possession, the Jets were driving toward a tie when a controversial call stole their momentum.
And it's a first down for the Jets. And
the far judge is saying, oh, good.
Incomplete.
But looking at it on instant replay, I guarantee you every Jet fan out there believes that's a catch.
Oh, my God, did the Jets get robbed? And the Dolphins get a monumental break.
Wow.
On this day, there was no home cooking for Parcells and the Jets, but they weren't really done until an interception with 1 minute to go sealed Miami's season sweep against New York.
Back at the 15-yard line, running towards the right side, George Teague, and that will do it.
There will be no fourth quarter heroics today in Miami.
The Jets have a heck of a football team, and understand this, you could very well be playing them again, all right? Hell of a job of hanging in there. I don't know why it is you make them so scary. I don't know.
There's nothing scary about a beautiful autumn afternoon in Orchard Park, but Buffalo's special teams acted like they were afraid of Derek Cullors as they tried hard to avoid him on an 86-yard return.
And Cullors will take it in full flight at the 15 to the 20, and he slips around at the 25 and stays on his feet and breaks out to the 40, 45, one man to beat. He looks like he's going to go all the way.
Cullors appeared to be trapped, but he escaped when Buffalo proved why they are statistically the worst coverage team in the AFC.
And bad tackling back there. They had him after he slipped back around the 30-yard line. He goes 86 yards to put New England in the lead. Derek Cullors.
New England went up 17-3 when Drew Bledsoe found Ben Coates wide open in the end zone. Starting quarterback Alex Van Pelt was replaced by Todd Collins, but his third quarter interception ended Buffalo's hopes.
The invasion rolls the left ball, batted in the air. Touchdown, Patriots!
The Pats are now a four-letter word in Miami and New York as those three teams are tied for the AFC East lead. Fans young and old like nothing more than in-your-face smash-mouth football. And nobody does it better than fullback Mike Alstott.
Alstott pounds it up the middle, breaks the tackle. He's to the 40, 35 to the 30, the 8 train to the 20,
Looking like a bulldozer in pewter, Allstott's 47-yard run gave Tampa Bay a 7-0 lead.
Mike Allstott refusing to go down. That is a Pro Bowl run by number 40.
Making his case for $2 in the Pro Bowl backfield, rookie Warrick Dunn contributed touchdowns in the air and on the ground that buried the Falcons in their home dome.
Hand off to Dunn, and Dunn pops it. 25-20 to the 15, 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Warrick Dunn, just like that.
Atlanta is left looking for answers after falling to 2-8 for the season.
Tampa Bay, under the leadership of Tony Dungy, have really turned things around. Right now, they're 7-3. After 10 games last year, they were 2-8. This week, they're going to be entertaining the New England Patriots, an important game for both teams because both teams fighting for a playoff spot.
You know, for the Buccaneers, when Trent Dilfer doesn't have to carry the load, they win more often than not. Last week against Atlanta, 199 yards rushing and no sacks in the ballgame. Yes, you say that's the Atlanta Falcons, big deal, but they came in as the #1 sack team in all the NFL. They're back on track. I like the Bucs.
Well, I like the Bucs too, but not because of their offense, because of their defense. And their defense, you know about Sapp, you know all about Brad Culpepper, but what do you know about Chidi Ahanotu? What do you know?
I know you've been practicing that name for the last 3 hours there.
Well, let me tell you about Chidi. He plays the strong side in, has 8 sacks, plays over the tight end, takes the running game, stuffs the running game. Chidi is why Tampa Bay will win.
I don't go along with that. It's going to be New England because Bledsoe don't have to worry about getting sacked because Sam Gash finally getting some playing time at
fullback. Where's he been? How come he hasn't been in there?
I don't know why he hasn't been in there. I suppose that Curtis Martin was asking the very same question because that is his personal protector. Gash will lead the way, Martin will gain the yards, and New England will win.
Well, New England will win, Lenny, if they can stop Warrick Dunn and Mike Allstott, their running backs. Now, Allstott has a broken bone in his hand. He'll wear a cast. That will slow him down. But really, the responsibility is going to fall on Chris Slade. It's going to fall on Johnson and Bruschi. These guys here have to step up and do the job. I think they'll slow him down, and New England's going to win.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The Patriots and Buccaneers both got off to quick starts, and then they slid back. That's in contrast to the Seahawks, who started slowly but have been coming on very strong.
Dennis Erickson hasn't had to chew out his resurgent Seahawks lately, but last Sunday things got a little sticky when Ronnie Harris gummed up the works on a punt return.
On the run, Ronnie Harris at the 33, up the sidelines to the 40, fumbles the ball. It's picked up by San Diego at the 40. Going down the field is, I believe, Greg Jackson. He's going to score. Touchdown, San Diego.
This game turned into an unexpected passing duel between veteran Warren Moon, who's often been incredible throughout his career, and third-stringer Craig Wheelahan, who's always been invisible during his. Both quarterbacks turned on the scoreboard and turned over the football.
Wheelahan back to the goal line to throw, sets up, he's pressured, he fumbles in the end zone, it's loose, the Seahawks will recover for a touchdown. It is Michael Sinclair, I believe, has got the football.
To throw up the sidelines, intercepted by Bradford, down the sidelines, 30, 20, 10, touchdown San Diego!
In his first ever NFL start, Wheelahan threw for a pair of touchdowns.
Great protection, going deep on a post, Tony Martin got it! Touchdown San Diego! A 61-yard bomb!
But with 2:20 remaining and Seattle trailing 31-27, Moon showed why he has become the most entertaining old-timer since Mathau and Lemon started being grumpy.
Right sideline to Galloway, he's got it! Touchdown Seahawks, Joey Galloway! Unbelievable grab, 7 yards deep to the right corner of the end zone.
While Moon and the Seahawks have propelled themselves into playoff contention, the Oakland Raiders have been a disappointment. Oakland's outward appearance might still be pride and poise, but their undergarments tell a different story. Still, the Raiders seem more than capable of leaving the Saints all torn and tattered. Jeff George, the AFC's top-rated passer, directed a second-quarter touchdown drive that featured a 56-yard catch and run by tight end Ricky Dudley, number 83. The Saints' shoddy tackling and their inability to move the ball on offense induced the always excitable Mike Ditka to show his team that he, at least, has not forgotten how to spike a football. Inspired by the demonstrative Ditka, New Orleans eventually broke a 9-quarter scoreless streak, then went on to earn a 13-10 victory. The 3-7 Raiders look as worn out as an old T-shirt and reside in the cellar of the AFC West, a division that belongs to the Broncos. Last weekend, Denver provided a sneak preview of winter, and in the first ever meeting between the Broncos and Panthers, punt return ace Darian Gordon, number 23, made it seem that Carolina's coverage team was comprised of 11 guys named Frosty the Snowman. Gordon, the NFL's career leader in punt return average, raced 82 yards for a score in the first period. Then just 7 odd minutes later, Gordon became only the third man in league history to return 2 punts for touchdowns in the same quarter.
25, middle 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. Here we go again. 45, 40. One to beat Gordon. Down the sideline, 20. 10, 5. Are you kidding me?
While the snow melted on the ground, the wins keep accumulating for the Broncos, who share the league's best record with the 49ers. San Francisco came into Veterans Stadium fielding the league's top-ranked defense. Since an opening day loss, the 49ers have pulled together to win 8 straight games.
All right, man, we got to go to work tonight. Up front. Work on 3. 1, 2, 3. Work!
It's a handoff to Ricky on a counter. Tries to sweep to the right, and he fumbles the ball. 49ers pick it up. Merton Hanks trying to get his balance. He does. He's down the sideline. 10-5. Touchdown, San Francisco.
Merton Hanks recorded the 49ers' first defensive touchdown of the season. The Eagles eventually crumbled under a ferocious pass rush. 3.5 sacks by Dana Stubblefield had Philadelphia ready to throw in the towel. What Philadelphia really needed was better pass protection. The 49ers blew through Eagle blockers to record 8 quarterback sacks.
You got a sacking machine up in front right now. Let's stop you doing that work. We're ready to go to work. We're ready to go to work right here, baby. Let's go. We're ready to go to work. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Yeah. Right here, baby.
Levy takes it at his 27. Gets by the first 2 Eagles. Goes right up the middle. 50, 40, left sideline. Can Hunt catch him? No. He's gone. 10-5. Touchdown, 49ers. Chuck Levy, a sensational run back on the punt, sailing by the men in green.
Chuck Levy went untouched on only his second ever punt return. Philadelphia lost at home for the first time this season, while the 49ers cruised to their 9th straight win.
The 49ers are rolling. This may be their best defense ever. Now it's time for inside information. John Elway almost made a classic blunder a few weeks ago. Boy, did he get away with something. When the Broncos went into overtime in Buffalo, Captain Elway won the toss, and he had the choice of kicking off, receiving, or defending the goal of his choice. Let's listen to the replay of what he said to referee Ron Blum.
Denver calls tails. It's a tail. You want the football?
No, we're going to kick off. We're going to go that way.
All right, they choose to kick in that direction. You want the football?
An NFL spokesman said the league was not aware of anything wrong with the way the coin flip was conducted. Now, technically, when Elway said we'll kick, his choices should have ended right there, and Blum should have asked Buffalo's captains what goal they would like to defend. You know, I was involved in a similar situation in the 1962 AFL Championship game between the Dallas Texans and the Houston Oilers. My teammate, Captain Abner Haynes, won the coin toss, and he said, we will kick to the clock because that's the way the strong wind was blowing.
We will kick to the clock. You're going to kick? Yes. To the clock. Right.
When he said we'll kick, the Houston captain said, hey, we'll defend that goal. Not only did they get the football, but they got the wind to their back. But fortunately for Abner Haynes, that game went into the 6th quarter, and we did indeed have the wind to our back when Tommy Brooker kicked the winning field goal. Fortunately for John Elway, the Broncos also won. For more inside information, let's go to Chris Collinsworth and Gary Myers.
All right, Lenny, thanks. Gary, this past week, the New York Jets really got a horrible call on a catch by Wayne Chrebet that could have led on that drive to a tying touchdown against the Miami Dolphins. Now, I know Bill Parcells voted against instant replay the last time. Did that play make him change his mind?
Well, Chris, I don't think that Parcells was necessarily against instant replay. What he was against was that proposal, the challenge system, where each coach would have been allowed 2 challenges per game, but then right or wrong, they would have lost the timeout, and he considered timeouts much too valuable to give up, even to correct the call. Now, but for a couple minutes on Sunday in Miami, he tried to put instant replay back in the league all by himself, because he looked up at that stadium scoreboard, saw the replay of Chrebet making the catch, and when a couple of officials made their way to the sidelines, he was imploring them to look up at the scoreboard, but they wouldn't give him the satisfaction of even turning around.
I can't imagine Bill Parcells getting upset like that.
Very much out of character.
Yes. Let's talk now about Mike Ditka. Apparently, during the course of the practice week, he made a friendly bet with his defensive coordinator that they couldn't stop Tim Brown on those crossing routes. But then at the end of the ball game, when the Saints had beaten the Oakland Raiders, he apparently paid off that bet. You say, big deal, but the league got upset, didn't they?
Yeah, the league considers this a very serious concern because of the sensitivity to any perception of gambling that goes on in the NFL. On Wednesday, Paul Tagliabue wrote Mike Ditka a letter expressing his concern and, reminding him of the gambling policy, and he wants an explanation back from Ditka. The worst that will happen here to Ditka is that he'll be fined.
The Pittsburgh Steelers had a chance to get a new stadium. The people of some of the surrounding counties voted that tax down to build the new stadium. What does that mean for Pittsburgh now?
Well, this week I spoke with Steelers owner Dan Rooney, and he said he's encouraged after there was a big political meeting in Pittsburgh on Monday. The word that got back to him is a lot of optimism about building the Steelers a stadium in Pittsburgh. Under any circumstances, he says he's not moving the team out of the area, and he won't sell it if a stadium can't be built in the city. He said there are 2 communities 10 miles from Pittsburgh that have been willing and expressed an interest in getting the Steelers a stadium.
All right, the Indianapolis Colts are leading the way in the Peyton Manning Derby. How does Peyton feel about it?
Well, I spoke with Archie Manning this week, Peyton's father, and he said he spent the last 2 Saturday nights with Peyton, and never once has Peyton expressed any regrets about not coming out in this year's draft where he would have wound up with the New York Jets, and has not even talked about which teams might have his rights next year. He said that Peyton's decision was a tough decision this year because it was the Jets, because they weren't a typical 1-15 team, because they knew that Bill Parcells would get this team turned around quickly, but so far, no regrets. We'll see what happens if he winds up in Indianapolis, a much smaller market.
It must be really painful trying to figure out which team gets to pay you millions and millions of dollars. Thanks, Gary.
Okay, Chris.
Well, the subject of this week's Where Are They Now always evoked a lot of emotions. His players loved him, but others, well, they weren't quite as fond of him. The always colorful, always controversial Buddy Ryan.
On his stormy relationship with then Bears head coach Mike Ditka.
Mr. Hallis hired me to coach the defense, and then about a month later he hired Mike to coach the offense.
On former Eagles owner Norman Brayman.
Norman gave me a chance to be a head coach in the league, and I appreciated that part. And after that, we didn't agree on very many things.
On punching then Oilers offensive coordinator Kevin Gilbride.
If you attack Buddy Ryan, then you're going to get it.
On being fired after 2 years as Cardinals head coach.
I think if I'd been given the opportunity for the 3rd year and bring in the people I had in mind, that would have been in the playoffs.
2 years removed from that job, the innovator of the famed 46 defense is seemingly a million miles from the NFL. Today he's a farmer and a horse breeder in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, managing a 176-acre ranch and pursuing a dream of winning the Kentucky Derby.
It's like watching your kid play Little League Baseball. We go to races with them, and hopefully, they'll win them.
The first assistant coach to reach the Super Bowl with 3 different teams is quick to point out the contrast in dealing with players versus horses.
Whether it was pat them on the back or chew them out, that's what I did. That's what they call coaching. With the horses, there's one way of communication. With them, it's completely different. He's a good-looking son of a bitch. Easy.
Today, Buddy's a hands-on owner. Up every day at 5:30, he spends his mornings managing his thoroughbreds in nearby Lexington, then spends his afternoons caring for his ranch and more than 100 head of cattle.
My wife Joni always wanted to farm, and even though she's from Bayside, Queens, New York, then when we got this place and built it into a horse farm, well, this has been home since 1976 to us, really.
At 63, the father of 3 sons appreciates every day of his life, a life which could have ended long ago when he left his native Oklahoma at age 18 to serve 2 years as an Army Master Sergeant in the Korean War.
Shot at a lot of times and shot at people a lot of times.
But he survived the war, went to college, and began climbing the coaching ladder. He became a breeder in the late 60s with money he earned as an assistant with the Jets. Comfortable now in bluegrass country, he still keeps a not-so-distant eye on football.
I have a dish, and I watch any NFL game I want to, and as many as I want to.
While most of his attention may be focused on getting to the winner's circle, it's also clear that Buddy just can't walk away from the NFL.
We got a ball for you. Great job.
Well, I tell you, if they call me this year, I'd say no, because I've got a plan for this year, and then next year we'll see what happens.
If nothing else happens, Buddy Ryan will have left the game with a legacy as a defensive genius. But given the chance to be a head coach again, he'd like to leave it with a Super Bowl ring.
Buddy Ryan is a man who speaks his mind. He does what he feels. He also gets in trouble for some of his decisions, like 8 years ago when he cut Chris Carter. Carter, of course, went on to become a superstar with the Minnesota Vikings, but just recently, Carter revealed that at that time he had a drug and alcohol problem. Jerry, my question to you is, why didn't Buddy mention it at that time?
Well, anytime you're coaching the National Football League, you're not allowed to make any statements about players on drugs or alcohol, even to defend yourself in your personnel decisions.
Well, I'm allowed to say how we did last week, even if I have to defend myself, or Jerry, or Nick, or Chris.
boy.
Chris, 14-1 last
How about that?
Unbelievable.
Hey, that's no big deal in Texas. 14-1 is no big deal in Texas. Jeff Roller from Texas was 15-0. He copied off of me.
Yeah, but we don't know how he did for the season. We do know how we did for the season as we take a look at that.
We got to catch up.
Got to catch up. Earlier in the show, we picked several games. Now it's time to pick the rest. Arizona will travel to play the Giants, but former Giant Kent Graham will not start. Jake Plummer gets the nod for the Cardinals. We all agree the Giants will win. Atlanta will fall to 2-9 as we all agree they will lose in St. Louis. Carolina is 2-0 in San Francisco, but we all agree the 49ers will win their 10th in a row. Green Bay will keep the Colts winless. Paul Justin gets the call for the Colts. A short Amtrak ride separates Philadelphia and Baltimore. Nick and I like the Eagles. Chris and Jerry like the Ravens. Seattle is 6-2 in their last 8 games. They'll make it 7-2 with a win in New Orleans. And Oakland is falling apart. They go to San Diego. We all like the Chargers. Now for the rest of the games in more detail. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. When these teams met in Week 8, Steelers won it 26-10. Bettis had 135 yards and a touchdown. Chris, what about this time?
Well, you know, they're finally starting to understand Dick LeBeau's zone blitz scheme in Cincinnati. 13 sacks the last 2 weeks, but they still can't stop Jerome Bettis. I like the Steelers.
Now, everybody's saying Boomer Esiason came off the bench. He should start. No. Jeff Blake is going to be the starter this week. Why? Because of the pressure of that Pittsburgh defense. Even Greg Lloyd had his first sack last week. I like Pittsburgh.
Well, you talk about pressure from the defense. That pressure is causing the Steelers now to be tied for first place in interceptions. They've taken Lake, moved him back to safety off the corner position. They win again.
You know, you were talking about quarterbacks that can do more than throw, can run with the football. How about Cordell Stewart? He has rushed for 8 touchdowns this year.
How many did you have in your career?
I had 9 in my whole career, but I still like Pittsburgh.
What an athlete.
Denver's at Kansas City. When these teams met in Week 1, the Broncos won it by the score of 19-3. Rod Smith had a big day with 122 yards in receiving.
Hey, how about that Denver defense? Last week, they caused 4 turnovers, held the Panthers to 147 yards total offense, and shut them out. I like Denver.
What about the Chiefs defense last week against Jacksonville? In the first 9 passes, they gave up 170 yards. What do you think Elway's going to do? He's He's going to carve him up. Denver wins.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially the fact that Dale Carter's still struggling with that shoulder injury. I just don't think he's getting the jam at the line of scrimmage. I like Denver, too.
Kansas City is hurting. No Elvis Gerback. Also, they're without Ted Popson, their tight end. They got some offensive linemen that are hurting. Jeff Criswell and David Zott. I like Denver. Got the New York Jets at Chicago. The Bears still paying for allowing Jets receiver Jeff Graham to leave for free agency 2 years ago.
Well, I was at the Bears game last week, and guess what? They put in Darnell Autry. He ran the ball good, looked like the great back from Northwestern. But with 54 seconds, they found a way to lose it. It'll be a good close game again this week, and they'll lose it at the end.
I agree with you, especially because of the problems now the Bears are having on the defensive side. Alonzo Spellman, John Theory, they're just unable to play that zone blitz anymore without those two guys in there. I like the Jets.
Hey, sticking with the defense, Bill Parcells finally got tired of Otis Smith being his cornerback. Otis Smith has been beaten for 6 touchdowns. Marcus Coleman goes in. Glenn Foley gets his second start, and the Jets win.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm a meteorologist, and I am predicting bad weather in Chicago this weekend. The Jets still cannot run the football. I like the Bears. Tennessee at Jacksonville. Jacksonville has won 11 consecutive games at home. Will they make it 12?
Eddie George going against a defensive line from Jacksonville that's really banged up, but too much offense in Jacksonville. I like the Jaguars.
Staying with that defense, Jeff Logman, Tony Bracken's big days against Kansas City last week. We'll have another one. I like Jacksonville.
I like Jacksonville because November, December, you got to have depth. And you watch Jacksonville, they have the depth. They lose the quarterback, they win. They lose their center, Wydell, they win. They lose Basili, guess what? They win. Defense injured a little bit, but the depth wins. Another big one.
I like Jacksonville as well. They're plus 12 in that turnover ratio, and they have great striking power on offense. Buffalo at Miami. These teams played to a 9-6 game in Buffalo. The Bills won a couple of weeks ago. What about this time?
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar over 100 yards last week. He has 10 touchdowns, leading the NFL, going across the goal line. I like Miami.
Well, I like Miami because the offensive line of Buffalo, 6 penalties in the offensive line last week. Can't win doing that.
Me too on Miami. Jason Taylor makes all the difference in the world on that defense. I'll take the Dolphins.
I'm with you guys. The Bills are dead last in kickoff coverage, meaning Marino gets great field position. Miami will win. That's our show for this week. Remember, Inside the NFL premieres each Thursday evening at 11 p.m. If you miss any part of it, you can catch it again Fridays at 7 p.m. and Saturdays at 11 a.m. So, for Nick, Chris, and Jerry, I'm Len Dawson saying thanks for watching the show the pros watch, Inside the NFL. Tuesday, November the 18th, Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel returns with a poignant look at Mark Rippon, Jim Kelly, and Boomer Esiason. Super Bowl quarterbacks who all have sons suffering from life-threatening illnesses. Jim Lampley brings these 3 veterans together to discuss how these diseases have forced them to rethink their priorities. And a profile on Grant Hill, perhaps the heir apparent to Air Jordan. Real Sports premieres Tuesday, November the 18th at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific.